Discover how a heartwarming leap into a stranger's arms led to an inspiring love story and a LIF. The rain poured down like a shattered sky, each drop hitting the pavement with a sharp echoing splatter. In the middle of a bustling city street, a small figure stood frozen, their heart racing like a runaway train. Sarah's eyes darted around, filled with uncertainty. She was late for her meeting and the visibility was as low as her confidence. Just then, she noticed a flash of movement, a man sprinting toward her, his eyes wide with determination. His backpack swung wildly behind him as he barreled through the raindrops. She didn't have time to think. Logic had flown out the window. With a desperate gasp, she leapt forward. Suddenly everything slowed. The world around her faded. There was just him, strong, warm arms reaching out to catch her as fear turned into a rush of exhilaration. Time ticked on with excruciating slowness as she felt their bodies collide. The impact was electrifying. A perfect moment of strangers becoming something more in a heartbeat. Yet what brought them together was a series of strange events that neither could have predicted. As they steadied themselves, her gaze swept up and met his, an odd magnetic spark igniting between them. But even as they shared that breath-stealing moment, the sky split open, revealing a bright flash of lightning that illuminated the street like a scene from a movie. Something was undeniably unusual about this encounter, something that sent shivers down her spine. The onlookers gasped, some whispering, "Did you see that?" while others pointed, as if anticipating a spectacle destined for Hollywood. When the final echo of thunder faded, and the clouds seemed to part, there was an unspoken understanding between them, as if they were bound by an unseen force. Yet, beneath the surface of exhilaration, confusion began to creep in. Who was he? Why had she jumped? Before they could exchange more than startled glances, an elderly woman approached, her expression one of concerned urgency. "You two should be careful," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. "Strange happenings have been unfolding around here. There's rumors of a mysterious force in the city tonight." Just then, the man shrugged off his backpack like it was no burden at all, revealing a small, intricate box tucked snugly inside. His expression turned serious, tension radiating off him. "You might want to find shelter. Something strange is about to happen," he said, glancing nervously at the gathering storm clouds. This was not your average rainy day. This felt like the beginning of something more. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain started to pick up again, drumming against the pavement like a marching band, and the woman's warning loomed in the air. What did she mean by strange happenings? Who was this man with the mysterious box? It suddenly felt like they were characters in a story yet to be written, caught in the whirlwind of fate. The wind howled, carrying a hint of something potent and ominous. Sarah's heart raced not just from fear, but from an exhilarating thrill, the urge to find out what secrets lay beneath the surface of this strange encounter. What magic or mayhem awaited them in this soaked city? The unanswered question hung in the air like the promise of adventure. Rain lashed against the pavement, creating a symphony of chaos that echoed in Sarah's ears. Still wrapped in the man's arms, she fought to catch her breath, her heart pounding with confusion and intrigue. They momentarily stood transfixed, eyes locked in a gaze that felt both new and unnervingly familiar. The box between them a silent sentinel to the secrets it held. "Why did you do that?" he finally asked, his voice cutting through the thunder, tinged with genuine surprise. His brow furrowed, underscoring the seriousness of the moment. I don't know," she stammered, feeling suddenly foolish as embarrassment crept in. "It was a reflex, I guess. But why do you have that box?" He glanced down, then back toward the darkening sky, his expression shifting from confusion to urgency. "I'm not sure what will happen next, but whatever's inside this box, it's connected to what's going on." Her pulse quickened. This felt more than just a chance encounter. A part of her couldn't shake the sense that they'd been woven together into a larger tapestry. Thunder rumbled in the distance, a fierce reminder of nature's power, or perhaps a warning of something more malevolent. "Look," he said, squaring his shoulders, "we should go somewhere safe." Sarah hesitated, glancing around at the crowd drawn to their moment of collision, the power of the impending storm echoing in their eyes. A woman nearby clutched her child while others whispered, their expressions caught between awe and fear. It hit her, this wasn't just rain. It felt like the calm before a storm, not just in weather, but in something deeper. "What's your name?" she asked, the simple act of inquiry grounding her amidst the whirlwind. "Call me Finn," he replied, a faint smile breaking through his uncertainty. "And you?" "Sarah." The name hung between them, imbued with a spark that ignited a connection stronger than the raging storm overhead. Before she could respond, Finn's eyes widened. "We need to move now." He scooped up the box and took her hand, pulling her into a desperate sprint. The rain lashed down with increasing ferocity, drenching them as they dashed toward a nearby cafe, lights flickering through the sheets of rain. Their footsteps splashed against puddles, creating a chaotic rhythm that echoed in their hearts. Inside, the cafe felt like a sanctuary, a cozy nook of warmth amidst the storm outside. They stumbled through the door, water dripping from their clothes, breathless and wild-eyed. The barista stared in bewilderment, but the pair hardly noticed, focusing instead on the box Finn now held tightly against his chest. "What's inside?" Sarah asked, urgency thickening her voice. "What are we dealing with?" Finn looked at her, and for a heartbeat, she caught a glimpse of fear masked behind his eyes. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice shaky. "But tonight, it's important. Something is coming." A sudden crash echoed from outside, shattering the moment. They exchanged alarmed glances, and the cafe patrons rushed to the windows, peering out into the tempest. The adrenaline surged through them. Whatever was brewing beyond the glass was far from natural. Finn opened the box, and Sarah leaned in closer, eager to uncover the truth. But just as the lid creaked open, a flash of light blazed through the glass, blinding them momentarily. "What was that?" she gasped, instinctively grasping Finn's arm. The cafe was thrown into shadows as lights flickered ominously before extinguishing entirely. Darkness swallowed them, plunged into chaos. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. In that suffocating moment, one thought echoed in her mind. They had stepped into something far beyond their understanding, and they were running out of time. Before them lay the unknown, and they were about to find out just how deep the rabbit hole went. What awaited them in that darkness? Sarah could only prepare for the answers she didn't know she was searching for. A heavy silence enveloped them, thick enough to slice through. Sarah's heartbeat echoed in her ears, syncing with the hurried whispers of other cafe patrons, their breath caught in the aftermath of the light. She squinted into the night, adjusting to the pitch-black cafe. Shadows loomed, flickering under the faint glow of emergency lights, distant and claustrophobic. "Finn," she called, feeling her way along the table. Her fingers grazed the cool surface, the wooden grain grounding her in the moment. "Are you with me?" "Yeah, I'm here," he replied, his voice low, nearly swallowed by the dark. "We need to stay quiet." Whatever that was, it isn't just a storm. A collective gasp erupted from the crowd. Sarah could barely discern movement in the murky space, shifting bodies framed against the feeble light. People were whispering anxiously, thoughts racing. "What is happening? Why did the lights go out?" Someone bumped into her, and a shiver ran down her spine. The last thing she wanted was to lose Finn in the chaos. "Let us move to the back," Finn suggested, urgency edging his tone. "The windows won't protect us much if there's something out there." She nodded, sensing the intensity rise. They maneuvered through the darkness, bodies brushing against each other, creating an unsettling intimacy. Sarah felt the box tucked beneath Finn's arm, a solid reminder that they were carrying something that could hold the answers. A sudden crash from outside made her jump, followed by a series of thunderous booms. It felt as if the world was shaking, and a dread crept into her bones, chilling her even more than the cold. Time hung heavy, and she could feel tension mounting in the air. "Breathe," she thought. Just breathe. But how could she breathe when instinct screamed at her to flee? "Do you think it's more than just the storm?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Finn hesitated, and the distress in his eyes sent a jolt of fear through her. "I can't shake the feeling that something's coming, something darker." Suddenly, a snap echoed, and a sharp light split through the cafe, a blinding flash like a crack in reality itself. Some patrons cried out. Sarah squinted toward the source. "What is that?" she gasped, seeing a figure dart past the windows, almost spectral amidst the rain. Other figures began to appear, moving swiftly, as though drawn in by an invisible string. "Stay down!" Finn shouted, pulling her behind a table. Their bodies pressed together in the cramped space. The box thudded between them, muffled in secrets. The door swung open without warning, a gust of wind slicing through the cafe, instantly chilling them. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she turned to see a tall silhouette framed by lightning, a figure right out of a nightmare. Draped in shadows but undeniably human. "Come with me if you want to survive," the figure barked, its tone a commanding blend of desperation and authority. "No," Finn protested. "We can take care of ourselves." But the figure stepped closer, eyes burning with urgency. "The box, it's what they want. They don't care about you. They only want it." Sarah felt Finn's grip tighten around her arm, and uncertainty flooded her senses. Was the stranger an ally or a foe? The weight of the choice hung heavy in the air, and a shiver ran down her spine. "Finn," she started, the vulnerability of her voice a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. But before she could finish, a powerful force slammed against the cafe door. The hinges creaked, the sound like thunder rumbling, as if echoed by something powerful outside. That was it, there were no more chances. They were plunged into a situation that demanded choices, and fast. "Go? Stay?" Sarah asked, the words barely a whisper as she exchanged bewildered looks with Finn. Clarity struck. She could either trust the stranger, risking everything, or stay in the dark and face the storm. Either option was fraught with danger. The walls felt like they were closing in. Time was slipping through her fingers. What did they have left to lose? "Finn, what do we do?" she questioned, desperation rising. In that searing moment of uncertainty, the answer lay waiting to be discovered, teetering on the edge of the unknown. And outside, the storm roared louder than ever. "Go!" Sarah shouted, the urgency igniting something primal within her. Finn's eyes widened, and he pulled her closer. Then, with a shared glance that begged for understanding, he nodded sharply. They could either embrace the unknown or languish in fear. The decision grasped at their throats, squeezing hard. In one swift motion, they darted toward the towering figure, the shadows twisting as they approached. The gusts of wind seemed to howl around them, an ominous reminder of the storm's fury outside. "Follow me," the figure commanded, and Sarah stepped forward, heart pounding like a war drum. The stranger turned, leading them to the rear exit, pushing through a heavy door that creaked ominously. Exiting into the deluge felt like stepping into another world. Rain pelted down in ferocious sheets, soaking them instantly. The air was charged, buzzing with something that tasted bitter and metallic. "Where are we going?" Finn demanded, struggling to keep up as the figure led them into the alley behind the cafe. "Just trust me. They'll come for you." The urgency in the figure's voice sent tremors through Sarah's body. "Who are they?" she gasped, fear threading through her voice like an electric current. But the figure didn't answer. Instead, he glanced over his shoulder, eyes scanning the darkened street under the flickering neon glow of a once welcoming cafe. "Keep moving." He barked again, and Sarah's heart sank. She felt the weight of Finn's arm brush against hers, and instinctively, she pulled him closer. "What's going on?" The words slipped out, barely a whisper amid the chaos. Just hold on," Finn replied, his grip firm yet shaky, mirroring her own rising panic. Suddenly, a chorus of unearthly howls pierced the storm, making Sarah freeze. The sound clawed at her insides, an otherworldly melody that shouldn't exist. "What is that?" she hissed, eyes wide and heart racing. "Those are the hunters. They'll stop at nothing," the stranger muttered, urgency spilling from his lips as he pushed them forward. As they rounded a corner, the alley opened up into a deserted street. A few flickering streetlights cast eerie shadows, but the road ahead felt abandoned, intensely quiet in contrast to the chaos they'd just escaped. "What's your name?" Sarah finally managed, desperate to gain some clarity. "Derek." "Now hush," he snapped, snapping her focus back. Before she could ask more, something darted out from a nearby doorway. A shadow, long and menacing, slithered toward them with a speed that made her heart lurch. The shadow transformed into a hulking figure, eyes glinting like shards of glass. "Run!" Derek shouted, his voice tearing through the air. Panic coursed through Sarah as they stumbled backward, turning to bolt in the opposite direction. But Finn's pace stuttered. He stumbled, nearly falling on the slick pavement. "No!" she cried, reaching out to him as she grasped his arm. A sickening blast of energy pooled around them. The world bent, twisting in on itself, and for a brief breath time paused. Sarah's vision blurred, the shapes around them warbled as if they were seeing through a cracked lens. "Come on!" Derek pulled them closer, his grip firm, almost dragging them as they rushed down the street. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter for a moment, but only for a moment. "Where do we go?" Finn shouted over the cacophony of the storm. "There's a safe house if we can make it there." Derek's voice faltered, laced with doubt. "What's inside?" Sarah asked, pulse hammering. "You'll find safety for now," Derek replied, glancing over his shoulder, urgency twisting his features. Just then, an answering howl sliced through the night, the dreadful sound nearly freezing her veins. It echoed, a promise of danger that approached too fast for comfort. Time pressed in around them. There was no more thinking. Only action, adrenaline, and fear lit their path forward. "There!" Derek pointed to an old building, its door half open, beckoning. "Move!" As they darted toward the entrance, hope mingled with dread. She could feel the shadows closing in, gathering force and malice, and in an instant the girl's understanding of reality shifted. The storm's echo transformed into something else, something that throbbed with a deep primal howl. Sarah's heart raced, fear clawing at her inside. What awaited them inside? Could they truly find safety? Outside, the darkened figures were restless, hungry, and drawing closer with every breath. The end was near. But whose end? The heavy door swung open with a creak, revealing a dimly lit hallway that smelled of damp wood and mold. "Inside! Now!" Derek urged, barely pausing to see if they followed. Sarah stumbled through the threshold, Finn hot on her heels. The door slammed shut behind them, the sound echoing ominously in the air. The moment was like a heartbeat, a heavy pause before the tidal wave. A gust of wind rattled the window panes, and Sarah's adrenaline surged, the air in her lungs burning with the frantic need for safety. She glanced at Derek, whose face contorted with unyielding resolve. "Do we have a plan?" Finn asked, anxiety bleeding into his voice. Derek didn't answer immediately. He began scanning the area, eyes darting from the farthest corner to the door they had just entered, as if assessing threats. "Nobody follows us from the alley," he said finally, though the doubt didn't leave his expression. "But they won't be far behind. We have to barricade the door just in case." Sarah's heart sank. Just in case. The words hung in the air like a loaded gun, ready to fire at any moment. Together, they pushed against the imposing door, wedging an old, rusted table against it. Sarah's hands trembled as she helped, the wood splintering slightly under the pressure. "What are those things?" she whispered, her breath quickening as the shadowy figures invaded her mind. Derek turned, his eyes piercing through shadows. "They're creatures of the night, born from darkness," he said, voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. "They hunt, never tire, always drawn to the desperate. You can't understand unless you've seen them." The storm outside howled, drowning out Sarah's thoughts. Her chest felt tight, a vice wrapped around her heart. Each drop of rain battered the roof, sounding like thunder inside her skull. "They hunt?" Finn echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. "But why us?" Derek shifted closer, his voice low and urgent. "You must be something special or they wouldn't have followed you." Sarah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of something shadowy settling on her shoulders. "What do you mean by something special?" Sometimes Derek paused, searching her eyes. "The remarkable lies hidden in the most ordinary of people. But it bonds you to the supernatural. And whatever you may possess drives them mad with desire." Sarah's mind raced, a whirlwind of confusion and terror. "What do they want from us?" "Your essence," he breathed like it was the most obvious answer. "Your fear, your purpose, all that you hold dear. They feed on it." A distant howl erupted outside, chilling Sarah to her core. She and Finn locked eyes, as if they could exchange strength through sheer will alone. "What will we do?" Finn demanded, urgency fraying at the edges of his resolve. Derek eyed the windows, shadows creeping past like snakes. We'll wait for the storm to pass. Then we can slip away. Their back exit. Wait. Sarah's voice rose in disbelief. Wait for what? Until they find us? Until we can act, Derek retorted, a flash of anger igniting in his gaze. Trust me. You have to trust me. Trust hung heavy in the air. Sarah felt it bearing down on her, the weight of all that was unspoken. As the storm raged on, it felt like the world spiraled into a void, shadows probing from every direction. She leaned against the wall, heart pounding as dread coiled around her like a vice. Outside, the howls grew closer, melding with the thunder and rain. It was the crescendo of horror they could not escape. Sarah turned to Derek, her voice shaky but determined. What are you not saying? What's the real reason they're hunting us? But as she questioned him, the dim light flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced across Derek's face. His expression shifted from resolve to fear, and for a moment the hunter looked hunted. There's something I haven't been honest about, he stammered, eyes darting to the door. And time is running out. The shadows loomed closer, hungry and relentless. What truth lingered in Derek's heart? And what did it mean for Sarah and Finn? Tension crackled like static in the air. The night may have its secrets, but so did their savior. Would they survive long enough to unveil them? The door thudded against the table barricade, a violent reminder that their sanctuary was temporary. Each tremor through the wood sent chills racing up Sarah's spine. The howls were louder now, cutting through the storm like a knife. Finn stepped back, eyes wide with fear. What did you mean, Derek? Derek's jaw tightened, his eyes darting towards the shadows that danced in the flickering light. There's a darkness within you. Within both of you. What does that even mean? Sarah's voice trembled, rising ever so slightly as panic surged. What darkness? Why is it so important to them? It's not just fear, Derek said, gripping the edge of a splintered table. It's your potential. They're drawn to it and they want to extinguish it. Why? Finn demanded, fists clenched tightly at his sides. Why is this happening? Because, Derek whispered, taking a hesitant step closer, the more afraid you are, the stronger you become. And they want to tear that power from you. The flickering light grew dimmer. Shadows stretched ominously across the peeling walls. A surge of wind howled through the cracks, rattling the windows, and an icy breath crept into the room. Sarah's skin crawled. We have to leave, she said, suddenly feeling the pressing weight of dread. Not yet, Derek insisted, his eyes suddenly fierce. You need to understand. We can't just sit here waiting for whatever that is. Sarah's breath hitched as the distant howls morphed into closer, more guttural sounds. The shadows at the edges of the room seemed to deepen, swaying like a dark tide ready to crash. Derek remained calm, now staring deeply into Sarah's eyes. Your fear is what keeps you alive. You've got a light within you, and if you harness it, you can fight back. We can fight back. What do we do? Finn's voice faltered, desperation creeping like a vine into his words. Derek took a shaky breath, the tension palpable as he leaned closer. When the moment comes, you need to draw on that fear. Use it. It's twisted, but that's what they want. You have to push it back. A scratching sound echoed from the door, a clawing against the wood that turned their blood to ice. Sarah pressed her back firmly against the wall, jaw set in determination. What if we can't? There's no time to dwell on what ifs. We need to prepare. Derek's urgency was palpable. If they get through the door, bowed inwards, ominously nearing a breaking point. The howls surrounded them, echoing dark intentions. Finn stepped forward, knuckles white as he grasped the handle, clearly torn between the instinct to open it and the need to stay behind the relative safety of their makeshift barrier. Leave the door. We need a plan. Sarah shouted above the cacophony, feeling the cusp of mania creeping into her voice. Derek's eyes flared with an intensity that pierced the haze of fear. When it breaks, you will fight. You stood strong in that alley. Do it again. Sarah's heart raced as the door's wood splintered, pieces chipping away like a fading resolve. With each creak, she felt a fire brewing inside, a strange mix of fear and defiance. I don't want to lose this, she whispered, not just to Derek but to herself. Then hold on to it. They can smell your fear, but they can't have your light. Not if you don't let them. Derek's expression was fiercely protective, and a swell of hope flickered through Sarah. The door splintered a final time, the destruction offering a gateway to the darkness beyond. Shadows burst in, pooling around them like ink against skin. Sarah and Finn exchanged a terrified glance. "Now!" Derek shouted, and as the shadows lunged, something inside Sarah clicked. A rush of adrenaline surged, and she instinctively drew on her fear, channeling it into bravery. Would it be enough to fight against the abyss? As they braced against the malevolence, its cold breath wrapping around them, their fate hung in the balance, and in that moment, through the chaos, Sarah felt a surge of strength that might either save them or doom them all. But as the shadows closed in, the real battle was about to begin. Would they withstand the darkness? Or was this the moment everything unraveled? The shadows surged forward, claws outstretched like fingers of night, reaching for anything that held warmth and light. Sarah's heart pounded, the rhythmic thud matching the frantic pulse in her throat. "Derek!" she screamed, a mix of fear and determination twisting in her voice. "Now, Sarah! Focus!" Derek's voice cut through the fear like a knife. His eyes glimmered with urgency. She felt a rush of energy take over, a flame igniting deep within her, a flicker of defiance against the consuming dark. With a deep, shaky breath, she gathered all the fear swirling inside her like a devastating storm. It twisted and churned, threatening to swallow her whole. But instead of letting it drown her, she forced it out, sending it forward like a shockwave. A blinding white light erupted from her hands, filling the room with an ethereal glow that clashed with the encroaching darkness. The shadows recoiled, hissing as the light touched them. Finn's eyes widened as he watched Sarah transform. "Amazing!" he gasped. "Keep going, Sarah." A strange mix of hope and terror surged within her as she focused harder, drawing on every ounce of fear, every painful memory that could fuel her newfound power. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, balanced between falling into the abyss or soaring into the sky. The shadows writhed against the light, their forms twisting and collapsing, as if the very act of being illuminated was a betrayal. Howls turned to cries of anguish, and Sarah felt her strength growing. "We can fight them," she shouted, emboldened. Derek nodded, urging Finn to join in. "Channel your emotions. Don't hold back." He stepped into the fray, forming a protective wall against the shadows, amplifying the light with his own energy. Finn hesitated for just a moment, then stepped alongside them. He closed his eyes, feeling the fear coursing through him, morphing into determination. Images of past failures flashed through Finn's mind, but instead of despair he drew on them. "I'm done hiding," he cried, his voice shaking but resolute. A second surge of light erupted from him, merging with Sarah's, creating a blinding orb that pushed against the darkness like a transforming dawn. But then came the thunder, a booming voice that sent chills down their spines. "You think you can fight me? You are but mere children, playing with forces beyond your comprehension." The shadows paused, their forms coalescing into a more defined shape, a looming figure cloaked in darkness. It towered over them, a monstrous visage flickering in and out of focus. With hollow eyes it glared, sending icy daggers of dread through the air. "Enough of this!" the figure roared, extending its shadowy arms. The lights flickered, Sarah's and Finn's defenses threatening to shatter under the immense pressure. The darkness pushed back, threatening to drown them once more. "No!" cried Sarah, but the figure surged forward, intent on swallowing their light whole. In that moment doubt seeped into her bones, freezing her heart. "Derek!" Finn shouted, panic rising as the boundaries of their fragile defense began to crack. Derek's face remained steady, but the tension radiating off him was palpable. "Don't let fear take control. You have the power within you. Use it." Sarah felt the fear begin to spiral as the figure drew closer, each advance creeping like a nightmare realized. But beneath it, her inner light flickered fiercely. Just as despair threatened to consume her, inspiration struck. She remembered what they were fighting for. That flicker transformed into a blazing fire, roaring inside her like a wild beast unleashed. "We will not back down," she declared, her voice a rallying cry, firm and unyielding. As the figure lunged, Sarah and Finn unified their lights, pushing back with not just their fear, but the strength of their bond. What if this darkness wasn't just a monster to fight but a truth to understand? What if it was a reflection of everything within them they feared to confront? The shadows exploded outward, the figure letting out a howl that shook the foundation of their makeshift sanctuary. For a moment, they hovered on the brink of victory or ruin, the light and darkness locked in a deadly embrace. But would their combined power be enough to banish the darkness once and for all? Sarah's heart raced as the battle intensified, and with glowing hands and a fierce heart, she felt the tide shifting. But in the chaos, a piece of the darkness broke free, slinking away into the crevices between them, deep into the unknown. Where is it going? Finn gasped, eyes darting frantically as the remnants of their enemy vanished. Not yet over, Derek muttered, heart pounding. And as they steadied themselves, breathing heavily, it became clearer than ever that while they had faced one darkness, the real fight was still ahead. Would it return? And if it did, what new horrors awaited them? Hope and dread fought a silent war in the air. And as they readied themselves for the next round, uncertainty loomed like an ever-looming shadow. The echoes of their confrontation faded, replaced by an unsettling silence that filled the room like a thick fog. Sarah felt the adrenaline start to wear off, leaving her limbs heavy and aching. Breathing deeply, she tried to steady her racing heart, but could still hear the distant howls of the shadows lingering in her mind. Did we do it? Finn whispered, his voice trembling. Are they gone? Derek shook his head slowly, eyes scanning the darkness that still clung stubbornly to the corners of the room. No, Finn. It's not over. That was just a taste of what they can do. He looked at Sarah, a deep concern etched into his features. We need to find out where that piece went. But how? Sarah asked, fighting to swallow the fear bubbling up again. What if it's gathering strength? Then we gather ours, Derek replied, resolute. We'll follow it. It can't hide forever. With uncertainty but a newly kindled flame of determination, the three of them moved cautiously toward the spot where the darkness had slipped away. The air felt electric with urgency, crackling as if the universe itself held its breath. Stay close, Derek urged, leading the way. They stepped deeper into the dimness, every creak of the floorboards echoing like thunder. Sarah felt the shadows wrap around her like cold fingers, but she held onto the warmth of the light still pulsing in her fingertips. Suddenly, Finn stopped, his face a mix of confusion and fear. What's that? He pointed toward the wall where a dark silhouette began to morph, shadows pooling together, swirling as if forming a liquid nightmare. Sarah squinted, her heart in her throat. It's like it's communicating. No. Derek snapped, eyes wide. It's setting a trap. Just then the dark figure burst forth, expanding into a grotesque creature, part human, part darkness, a swirling mass of despair and rage. It lunged forward with a writhing appendage, tendrils stretching toward them like it was hungry for their light. Run! Derek yelled, drawing them backward. They stumbled away, adrenaline kicking in as they charted a course through the unsettling maze of their hiding place. The creature became enraged, crashing into displays, scattering objects as it hunted them mercilessly. Back to the room! Finn shouted, panic in his voice. We can trap it. No, we can't go back. Derek countered, glancing at the spiraling shadows. That's where it's strongest. We can't fight it out here. Sarah screamed, her desperation rising. We need to regroup. Dexter's face turned serious, eyes locked onto hers. Then let us try to lead it somewhere, a place we can contain it. Where? Finn cried, glancing over his shoulder as the shadows flicked at their heels. There's a basement. Sarah remembered, a plan forming in her mind as the tendrils closed in. It's old, it should have some open space. We can let us move. Derek shouted sharply, igniting a surge within them all. They darted away, weaving through the shadows, dodging dark currents that crackled with energy. The basement door loomed ahead, a promise of refuge, but the creature surged forward, roaring as it pressed against them, pushing back against their faint light. Now, go! Derek shouted, shoving Finn and Sarah ahead before turning back to confront the looming terror. Derek! Sarah yelled, fear clawing at her throat. Trust me. Just get inside. He commanded, and she hesitated only for a moment before plunging into the basement, pulling Finn after her. The door slammed shut behind them, sealing them into the suffocating darkness. They leaned against it, breaths heavy, hearts racing. They were safe for now, but the feeling of calm barely touched the chaos raging within them. Did it follow? Finn gasped, glancing around the dimly lit space, shadows dancing along the walls. Sarah and Derek exchanged worried glances. We need to barricade it, she said. We can't let it out. Are you sure about this? Derek's voice was low but firm. Assessing their options, Sarah nodded, a mix of fear and resolve igniting in her. If it comes down to it, we fight together. No matter what. As they gathered items to fortify their shaky defense, a dread settled in. The shadows outside whispered, a muted chorus that echoed the terror they had witnessed, and Sarah felt a chill creep up her spine. Would the darkness find a way in? Would they have the strength to hold it at bay? There was a terrible uncertainty hanging in the air, and as the sounds of the creature's rage reverberated outside, Sarah realized that their true tests were only beginning. A low growl shattered the air, and all of a sudden, the lights flickered ominously, plunging them into darkness once again. Did it find a way in? Finn's voice quaked, barely audible in the oppressive silence around them. No, it's something else, Derek breathed, pulse quickening. What was coming for them now? And would their lights shine bright enough to face whatever emerged from the depths of that darkness? The basement was thicker than smoke, alive with oppressive tension. Sarah pressed her back against the door, heart hammering, as Finn and Derek braced together, eyes wide and searching. The growl became a sickening rumble, a beast just beyond their fragile barrier, waiting, and they all knew it was only a matter of time. Is there anything we can use? Finn whispered, his voice trembling, darting around the dimly lit room. Anything, Derek echoed, urgency creeping into his tone. We need to make this place uninviting. Sarah scanned their surroundings. Shelves were piled high with boxes, some old tools scattered about. If they could set up a barricade, maybe they could hold the darkness at bay. However, as she reached for a nearby metal pipe, a series of thuds against the door sent a jolt of panic through her. The creature was relentless, pounding with rage that echoed in her bones. We need to be quick, she urged, throwing herself into action. Derek gripped a stack of wood, tossing it in front of the door. Finn grabbed a rusted hammer, muscles straining as he shifted a heavy crate against the doorframe. Every sound seemed magnified in the basement. The creak of wood, the clink of metal. We need to keep it from breaking through, Derek called, glancing nervously back toward the door. Sarah felt a bead of sweat roll down her back. She could hear the snarls and hisses, the creature trying to find an opening. Squinting into the shadows, she felt the darkness pressing in around her, thick and suffocating. Its claws teased her skin. Just think of a way out of this, she muttered to herself, willing the fear to harden into resolve. Here, help me with this, Derek shouted, gesturing towards an old cabinet tipped on its side. They pushed it against the door, their breath sinking, desperation feeding their strength. What if it breaks through? Finn's face had drained of color. They all felt the weight of that possibility, a sting of reality that threatened to claw at their spirits. We won T, let it. Sarah's words came out sharper than intended, yet they held an undeniable power. She could feel their spirits raising, even against the gnawing fear. But suddenly, the growl amplified and twisted, accompanied by a horrid, wretched sound like flesh tearing. The door shuddered under the creature's assault, rattling the air around them, causing the shadows to dance wildly. What the hell was that? Finn gasped. The sound of slithering drew their attention to the corners of the room. Shadows spiraled and curled, changing shape as if breathing, as if ready to pounce. They were trapped. The walls were closing in, and the only source of light, their minds, was dimming under pressure. Wait, Sarah said suddenly, realization dawning in her. The pieces, it needs darkness to manifest. What? How does that help us? Finn questioned, eyes darting back to the door. If we can draw the shadows into one spot, we can reveal their weakness. We can trap them, she urged, inspiration flooding her veins. Okay, but how? Derek demanded. There's light in the basement, it's hidden, Sarah said, rushing forward towards a window on the far wall, where the fading daylight barely broke through. She yanked the grimy curtains and gasped as dust clouds flared up, revealing an old lantern hidden beneath debris. Light! We can use light, she exclaimed, a godsend of hope slicing through the darkness. But it won't last, Derek warned, glancing anxiously at the door. Then we make it last. Finn's eyes glimmered with newfound determination as they rushed to gather old batteries and matches they would hope were still functional. Test they prepared. The door rattled louder, splintering slightly as the creature surged with even greater force. The stench of decay filled the air, reminding them they were fighting something ancient and filled with vengeance. Come on, Sarah yelled, the tension in her chest tightening with each rumble. Just one spark. The roar of shadows echoed, their wailing cries merging into a haunting symphony. It felt as if the darkness was alive, a sentient being hungry for their fear. They set the lantern down, holding their breaths. Finn struck the match. The flame flickered, quivering as they dared the shadows to approach. And just when the door would begin to give way, he lit the lantern. The bright glow cut through the darkness with a brilliant resolve. A wave of light expelled the blackness, revealing the true form of the beast looming behind it, its ghastly visage contorted in rage. What the derrick started, but the creature lunged forward just as the lantern illuminated it. Hold it back. Use the light, Sarah cried, as the creature flinched from their radiant defense. It was a moment of chance, a small flicker of hope, but as the shadows surged forward, they couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation was just the beginning. The room thickened with tension, the lantern's light flickering ominously. Can we keep this up? Derrick shouted, breathless. They watched as the darkness clawed at the barrier of light, and in that stolen moment, they knew they had one last chance to push back the shadows. Would it be enough to break the relentless row of darkness? Or would Sarah, Finn, and Derrick pay the ultimate price? A cold sweat seeped from Sarah's forehead as the shadows writhed, clawing at the edges of their shaky fortress. She could feel the tremors beneath her feet, the sinister energy pulsating from the beast, eager to consume their light. Keep it steady, Finn shouted, his voice drowned by the howling chaos. The lantern flickered threateningly, casting long, distorted shadows on the walls as the creature lunged, every inch of its grotesque form seething with menace. It's feeding off our fear. We need to redirect that energy. Derrick gritted his teeth, staring hard at the approaching darkness coiling around the edges of their refuge. Sarah, use the fire, channel everything you have. Your light can grow if you believe it. We can't let it win. Sarah's heart raced at the urgency in his voice. She concentrated fiercely, letting all her fear morph into raw energy. The darkness battled at the peripheries, but she could feel her courage like a roaring flame within. Raising her hands, she projected every ounce of emotional brilliance she had left, and light surged from her fingertips. As it burst forward, the creature recoiled, howling in agony as tendrils of energy sizzled against its form. Finn joined her as his energy radiated bright and fierce, mixing into a brilliant aura that illuminated the room. They formed a barrier together, creating a protective dome of light. Now, shouted Derrick, stepping closer. We keep pushing. With renewed determination, Sarah settled deeply into the moment, letting herself remember all the instances of love, joy, and even grief. Each memory became fuel, igniting her power further. The light grew, burning hotter as the shadows shrunk back, quaking at the heat. Suddenly, a sickening shudder quaked the ground, and shadows peeled back, forming into a darker, more sinister embodiment. Foolish children, it screeched, its voice rasping like nails on glass. You think you can trap me? You know nothing of darkness. The oppressive weight of dread suddenly crept in again, causing Sarah to tremble. Don't waver, Finn urged, gripping her arm tight. Remember who you are. We're not alone. We fight this together. With that spark of unity, a brilliant glow emanated from their combined voices. The creature lunged once more, but they were ready, gathering their emotions to forge an unyielding shield. Light is stronger when faced with darkness, Sarah yelled, her voice unwavering as the energy surged from her heart, bursting forth into a spellbinding wave of brilliance. The shadows screamed, a piercing howl that echoed through the room, shaking dust from the walls. Their colossal form began to shatter as the light enveloped it, fracturing against their combined might. Sarah's spirit soared at the thought of conquering despair, fueling her determination. With one final push, the beast disintegrated into nothing more than wisps of shadow drifting into the cracks, fading into a nothingness that spoke of silent defeat. The room stilled, the oppressive sensation lifting as daylight began to creep in through cracks in the walls. They stood breathless, the lantern's light flickering softly now, a gentle embrace after the storm. Did we do it? Finn whispered, disbelief etched across his features. Derrick wiped sweat from his brow, nodding slowly. For now we've banished it, but darkness is relentless. We need to stay vigilant, he replied, breathing heavily but with a flicker of hope in his eyes. Sarah felt an unexpected warmth wash over her. Then we'll face it. Together. With their hearts intertwined, filled with a sense of unity stronger than their trials, they stepped out of the basement and into the brightening day. The sunlight bathed the world in warmth, illuminating their path ahead. They looked at each other, smiles forming through their fears. Life continued waiting beyond the shadows, a promise of new adventures pressing forward as they walked into the dawn. A sun rising on each of their potentials, they felt freedom accompany them like a new friend. No longer were they just strangers caught in a storm. They were allies bound through shared trials, prepared for whatever darkness would dare to challenge their light again. And in that moment they realized something precious. While darkness is an eternal part of existence, so too is the unyielding power of connection and love. Sarah took a deep breath, holding on to the light within her. Together they would find their way, no matter the shadows that came their way. Now listen up. If you enjoyed this wild ride, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it really helps. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear every thought. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference. Let's keep this community growing.